1971 340 4-speed RT Scat Pack Dodge Challenger. I got this beauty for $42,000 down at the Worldwide Auction in Houston, Texas. And the next thing you know, Dodge loans me a 2015 pre-production Scat Pack Challenger that's headed for the crusher as soon as I'm done with it. Then Aaron says, why don't we use the new car to amp up the old one? And I'm like, that's a great idea, why not?
We knew that basically we needed none of the old suspension, and we know that the motor and transmission are gonna come out. What we really needed out of our 2015 was its driveline, specifically its motor. There are a lot of really, really amazing parts on the new Scat Pack 2015 Challenger. And while it would have been nice to put as many of those components on this car as possible, well, I mean, it's just that one car is kind of like a spaceship and the other car is kind of like the Mayflower. So making those parts work on this car would have been much more difficult. So for some of the more normal features like the suspension, we had to turn to aftermarket companies.
Put a work into it.
We used Magnum Force suspension and replaced the entire front cradle. Also, the control arm setup is radically different from factory. Some of the geometry has been optimized. One of the features that we were really excited about, especially Richard, was putting on the shaker hood. But there were a lot of issues that were prohibitive. So the shaker hood didn't make it onto this car, regrettably.
You just told me no. Now I'm tens of thousands of dollars in, but you can't stop at that point. You can't back up, you can't run away scared. You just gotta push forward, and that's exactly what the guys did.
Since so much of this car is completely stock on the outside, I needed a set of wheels that A, fit, but second, actually looked right on the car. US Mag had a wonderful option. Basically a stock wheel that's been blown up into 18s in the front and 20s in the rear. You don't have to think twice. It really makes sense on the car. The seats looked okay, but with a car that stops this hard, a car that accelerates this hard, and a car that turns this hard, well, there's a fair chance you might end up coming out the window or at least in the passenger seat. So what I wanted to do was actually add a bit more hip and side bolster to curtail that. On top of that, we also changed the materials slightly. We went with a grain that fit well between the dash and between the vinyl top, and then what we took the inserts and made it all perf. The final product was absolutely stunning.
When all was said and done, we ended up with probably the first ever 1971 Challenger retrofitted with modern Scat Pack components. It cost me way more than I thought it would, so I've got to get at least 100 grand out of this thing or I'm screwed. It's a good thing I got a buyer already on the hook. Woo!
You know, it may not be a Hellcat, but it's definitely a Scat Cat. Let's get out of here.
There you go. I'm ready to rock. Hey, why do you always get the drive?
You building me, driving. All right.